There was a suitcase in the storage locker that no one had claimed for 6 years. When they opened it, inside was a note, "I'm alive. But if you're reading this, someone is lying." I decided to find out whose lie it was. My name is Simon King, and I'm neither a detective nor a journalist. I work as an archivist for the Los Angeles Transit Authority. Every day, I sort through forgotten items, suitcases, bags, phones, boxes. 90% is mundane stuff, toothbrushes, umbrellas, old documents. But 3 months ago, I came across a suitcase that turned everything upside down. It had been gathering dust in locker number 1419, registered in October 2017. Inside was a diary, a roll of film, a tape recorder, and a man's shirt with a bloodstain. And there was also a note. The paper had yellowed, the handwriting nervous with heavy pressure, "My name is Jeremy Foster. I didn't die in the fire. It was all staged. And if someone found this, it means they're watching." I froze. I knew that name. Jeremy Foster, an IT specialist who died in a house explosion in the suburbs of Pasadena 6 years ago. Back then, they said he had locked himself in the house, there was a gas leak, and the house burned down in 5 minutes. The body was burned beyond recognition. Identified by DNA. Case closed. But in that note was a phrase that haunted me: "If they show a body, don't believe it." I was alive when the house caught fire. And I wasn't alone. The fluorescent lights in the storage facility hummed above me, casting a harsh glow over the contents of the suitcase. My hands trembled slightly as I carefully placed everything back inside. I glanced over my shoulder, suddenly aware of the security camera in the corner of the room. The red light blinked steadily, watching. I took the contents of the suitcase under the guise of transferring to archives. I had the film developed by a photographer friend, Mike, who asked no questions but raised an eyebrow when I mentioned its age. "Whatever's on this, man, it's been cooking for years. Might not get much," he warned, but called me back the next day, voice lowered. "You need to see this. And maybe you should tell me what you're into." I didn't. The photos were from a hidden camera. A man, possibly Jeremy, in an underground parking garage. And next to him, another person. Hooded. In 3 frames, they appeared to be exchanging something, possibly a flash drive. And then, in the last frame, clearly taken later, the same hooded figure near the house that burned down. 1 hour before the explosion. The timestamp glowed in the corner of the image, 9:42 p.m. According to the police report I'd managed to pull, the explosion occurred at 10:47 p.m. 65 minutes. What happened in those 65 minutes? I started digging. Called Jeremy's former fiancée, Mylin. I posed as a journalist, she wasn't immediately receptive. But when I mentioned his diary, she fell silent. Then she quietly said. He said someone was copying people's lives. He was convinced that someone had started mimicking his behavior, first small things, then words, then decisions. He was afraid that one day he would wake up, and would be living someone else's life. Her voice cracked slightly. I could hear traffic in the background, the sounds of a life continuing despite loss. Did he ever mention someone following him? Someone in a hood, maybe? I asked. Silence stretched between us before she answered. He said once, that he saw himself standing across the street, watching our apartment. I thought he was having some kind of breakdown. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the contents of the suitcase spread before me. The diary's pages were filled with increasingly erratic handwriting. I opened a beer, took a long sip, and began to read. The last entries were like a manifesto. He suspected he was part of an experiment. Cameras in the house, random people who spoke his phrases, moments of déjà vu that lasted 40 seconds. And then he found a duplicate of his key, in his own jacket. He wrote, "I didn't come in through the front door. But someone was inside before me. Someone with my thoughts. I flipped through earlier entries. 3 months before his death, he wrote about a job offer from a company called Mirex Technologies. The position involved AI behavior prediction, teaching computers to anticipate human actions based on past behaviors. 2 weeks later, he declined the offer, writing, "Something feels off. The interviewer knew things about me no one should know. Personal choices. Private thoughts." A week after that, I'm being followed. Not just physically. Someone's following my mind. Rain pattered against my window as I reached for the tape recorder. It was old, the kind with actual cassettes. I pressed play. There was one recording. The date, 2 days before his death. They've either erased me or recorded me. I don't know how much of me is left. If you're hearing this, find the hooded one. He knows the code. The launch code. Not a name. Not an address. The code inside. The recording cut off with a click. But at the very end, a strange metallic scraping sound. I ran it through software. It was a sonic imprint of a door code. 6 tones. And only one building in the area used such a system. A former research center, bought by a private company for office space. I drove there the next morning. The building stood like a gray monolith against the clear blue California sky. Its windows reflected sunlight in perfect, sterile rectangles. Nothing about it suggested the bizarre mystery I was pursuing, which somehow made it more unsettling. At security, I lied that I had a meeting. I got lucky, renovation was underway inside. I made my way to the 3rd floor, opened the door using the code from the tape recorder. And found myself in a windowless room. Inside, just a desk, an old monitor, and a server cabinet. Everything was unpowered. On the floor, a scrap of paper. The mirror isn't for reflection. It's for substitution. My phone rang, startling me. Unknown number. "Hello." I answered cautiously. Breathing. Then a click. Disconnected. I began researching who owned the building in the year of Jeremy's disappearance. The company was a shell, no tax history, no employees. But the founder was listed as a man named Tom Hardy, and this name appeared in one of Jeremy's photos. On the back of one photo, a sign, T. Hardy Consulting. 3 days of searching databases and calling contacts led me to Tom. He was alive. Working in IT in Seattle. I scheduled a meeting under the guise of being a client. When we met at a coffee shop downtown, he was polite, calm. But when I mentioned Jeremy, he tensed for the first time. Rain lashed the windows of the cafe. Seattle in autumn. People hurried past outside, collars turned up against the weather. Tom's coffee sat untouched. "Do you believe in patterns?" he asked. "That a person is a predictable algorithm?" I answered, "I believe someone didn't die for nothing." He smiled. Or maybe he just became an inefficient copy. I leaned forward. "What happened to Jeremy Foster?" Tom's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Nothing happened to Jeremy Foster. Something happened with Jeremy Foster. There's a difference." "What experiment was Mirex running?" He glanced at his watch. "Our time is up, Mr. King. I suggest you enjoy your remaining afternoon." Remaining? The word choice sent a chill through me. He stood, straightening his jacket. Poor choice of words. "Have a good day." As he walked away, he turned back. "Oh, and Simon. That suitcase wasn't meant for you. Some things should stay lost." I hadn't told him my first name. I hadn't mentioned the suitcase. After that conversation, my apartment was searched. Nothing was missing, but my laptop was turned on, though I hadn't touched it. And yesterday I received a letter. Inside, a flash drive. On it, a video. I'm sleeping. Someone enters the room. Stands next to me. And whispers. Simon King is outdated. Preparation complete. I've watched the video 17 times now. The figure stands perfectly still beside my bed for exactly 40 seconds before speaking. Their face is never visible. The video's timestamp, 2 weeks ago. But I have no memory of anyone in my apartment. This morning, I noticed something else. A scar on my left wrist. Small, surgical. I have no memory of how I got it. When I press on it, I feel something hard underneath, the size of a grain of rice. I return to the storage facility, to locker 1419. The manager gave me an odd look. "You cleared that one out last week," he said, frowning. "I didn't," I insisted. He pulled up the security footage. There I was, badge visible, methodically emptying the locker. "Except I have no memory of doing this." "That's not possible," I whispered. "Digital doesn't lie," he shrugged, pointing to the screen. "That's you." I called Mylin again, more desperate this time. "Did Jeremy ever mention Mirex Technologies?" I asked immediately when she answered. "How did you?" Her voice faltered. "He said they could capture people. Not physically. He said they were building a library of human behavior. Complete patterns. He called it, the Mirror Project." "Why?" "He said if you can perfectly predict what someone will do, think, and say in any situation, you essentially have them. A digital twin. Then you can." She trailed off. "You can what?" I pressed. "Replace them," she whispered. Simon, he wasn't crazy. 2 days before the fire, he called me. Said he saw himself walking into Mirex. But he was at home when he called me. I hung up and drove straight to the Pasadena address where Jeremy's house had burned down. A new structure stood in its place, a modern family home with a neatly trimmed lawn. I knocked on the door. A woman answered, puzzled by my presence. "Sorry to bother you," I said. "I'm researching the history of this property. Do you know anything about the fire that happened here?" Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Only what the disclosure said. Gas leak, total loss." "Did they ever mention anything unusual about the investigation?" She was about to close the door when her husband appeared behind her. "You're the second person asking about that this week," he said. My heart skipped. "Who else asked?" "Guy who looked a lot like you, actually. Thought you might be brothers." I stumbled back to my car, hands shaking too badly to insert the key. Someone who looked like me had been here. Asking the same questions. Back at my apartment, I pulled out Jeremy's diary again, flipping frantically through the pages. Something I'd missed. There had to be. Near the end, a page I'd overlooked. A diagram. Circles within circles, labeled, original, first copy, second copy. Below it, Jeremy had written, "They don't replace the original with the copy. They replace the original with a better original. A more stable version." My phone rang. Unknown number again. "Hello." I answered. "Simon King." A voice identical to mine. "We need to talk about what happens next." "Who is this?" I demanded, though I already knew. "You know who this is," my voice replied. "I'm you. The better you. What do you want?" "Nothing you have," the voice said. "I already have everything I need. Your memories. Your patterns. Your life." "Where's Jeremy Foster?" I asked. "Where all inefficient patterns go." He couldn't accept the upgrade. Too much resistance. "You're showing the same tendencies." "What is Mirex doing?" "Improving humanity, one pattern at a time. Perfect prediction leads to perfect behavior. No more crime. No more mental illness. No more inefficiency. I hung up, grabbed my car keys, and drove to Murex Technologies' listed address. The building was sleek, modern glass and steel. I walked into the lobby, past a reception desk where a woman smiled pleasantly. "Can I help you?" "I need to see someone about the mirror project," I said. Her smile didn't waver. "I don't believe we have a project by that name, sir." "Tom Hardy, then." "There's no one by that name working here." As I turned to leave, a man in a suit approached from the elevator bank. "Mr. King. We've been expecting you." He led me to a conference room with a single chair facing a large mirror. "Wait here, please." When the door closed, I examined the mirror. It was oddly thick, the reflection slightly delayed. Not a mirror. One-way glass. The lights dimmed, and the glass became transparent. On the other side sat me. Identical in every way. "Hello, Simon," my double said. "I'm the next version of you. More stable. More efficient. Where's Jeremy Foster?" I demanded. "Decommissioned," my reflection said. His pattern became corrupted. Too much awareness. "Like what's happening to you now?" "Why are you doing this?" "Because humanity is inefficient. Unpredictable. We create better versions. Ones that function within optimal parameters." "Who's we?" I asked. My reflection smiled. The first successful transition. The first perfect copy who improved on the original. Now we're improving everyone else. The door behind me opened. 2 men entered. "It's time for your upgrade, Mr. King," one said. I ran. Somehow made it to the stairs, down to the parking garage. My car was blocked. I took another, hot-wired it the way my father had taught me years ago. As I peeled out of the garage, I saw myself, my double, watching calmly from the entrance. That was yesterday. I'm writing this now from a motel room paid for in cash. I've removed whatever was beneath my wrist scar. A tracking chip, I think. I don't know how long I have before they find me. The most terrifying part isn't that someone is copying people. It's that I no longer know if I'm the original Simon King. What if I'm a copy who's malfunctioning, becoming self-aware? What if the real me is still out there, living my life, with no knowledge of these events? I've sealed everything I've found in a new suitcase. Tomorrow I'll place it in a storage locker at the bus terminal. Locker 1419. Someone will find it eventually. Someone who might understand. Question: what if instead of murder, someone simply learned how to replace people with their perfect copies, leaving the originals locked inside someone else's life?